Hi, I'm Alan Russell. This is FTE 217 Modern Sporting Rifles, Week 5 assignment. Okay, so what I'm going to do first in this presentation is clear this weapon, right? And I'm going to feel in here, make sure there's nothing in here, there's nothing in the chamber. Physically look, this rifle is clear. I'm going to put the trigger safety on. It's set to the safe position. I'll try to pull the trigger. It doesn't operate because it's in safe position. When I take this to fire position, the trigger fires perfectly. I'm continuing to hold this back. All right, when I hold that back, I should be able to pull this back like that and release it. Now, when I release the trigger, you should be able to hear it click as it moves, as the disconnector engages. Right there. If we pull the trigger again, you hear it did actually cock the trigger, right? Next, I'm going to take some dummy rounds here. I'm going to put 2 dummy rounds in this magazine. These are dummy rounds, so I'm going to put 2 in this magazine and insert the magazine in the rifle. It is in there good and secure. Then I'm going to put the round in there. Then I'm going to make sure the round actually engages. I can get this easily. There you go. The round is in there. I can see the round through here. So round did engage, right? Um, I'm going to push this on safe and try to pull the trigger. Trigger does not actuate. Take it to semi, trigger will operate. So trigger did operate. Now I'm going to pull this to the rear and eject that round. Just like that. It should have picked up the next round and put in here. This time when I pull it back, it should eject the round and lock the chamber open. And it did. Everything's locked open. Next, we're going to be, when you're doing a live fire function check, what we're going to be looking for is feeding and chambering, making sure that the gas pressures are going to drive the BCG back far enough without having that hammer feel. So we're looking for failure to feed or nose diving into the feed battery ramps or into the feed ramps, that kind of thing. Confirm that the bolt goes all the way forward and that's locking into place properly. Making sure when we pull the trigger, it ignites instantly, and then we can check a couple of the casings after we fired them, looking for clean primer strikes on the casing, centered in the casing, making sure it doesn't have any light strikes or anything like that. If I have an overgas system, those shells are going to go out more this way, 1 to 2 o'clock instead of 3 or 4 o'clock. If I have a weak undergas system, they're going to go behind me, more like almost 5 or, in that area, 5 o'clock area. And then I'm also watching, so after the last round is fired, to make sure that bolt locks open, just like it did here in my dry fire test, right? When we assess the trigger, when I pull the trigger here, I'm going to release this. I'm going to drop the magazine here too. The magazine's out. All right. I'm going to release this now. All right. And then I'm going to pull the trigger and feel for any kind of grittiness or friction or unevenness, like it's sticking. I'm going to take up the slack before I reach until I reach the wall, and then it operates very well. It does have probably about a 6 pound. I don't have a gauge to measure that with. I'm estimating, but it feels good. It breaks consistently. It's about the same every time you pull it. So I feel like this is a good trigger for just a general duty utility rifle, which is what I'm going to be using this for. Um, it's not a high-end trigger in here. If I decided to use this for hunting, I might put a little better trigger in there at some point. But this one has a positive tactile reset. It's got a smooth feel. I don't feel any grittiness. It lacks any kind of creep at the brake. So it really helps you know when the weapon's going to discharge. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the bolt here, pull that out, put the bolt in the receiver like this, and gauge it all the way in. Then I'm going to take my cleaning rod with the piece on the end here, put it right down the muzzle, like that, until it bumps against the cleaning rod. Then I mark it with this little pencil here. And we're going to measure this from the end of this right here to, that is 19.5 inches to my mark right here on this piece. On the end of the rifle here, I got the flash device here, and I'm just going to measure that for the, halibut. That is 2 inches. So I got an 18-inch barrel. So if you take 19.5, subtract 2 inches, that's 18.5. But then the threaded part of that barrel sticks out about half an inch or so. So we're going to have an 18-inch barrel there. That's what we're going to. Okay, what I did here is I marked on the top of this with the grease pencil instead of using tape. I'm going to put this in here, right, get it started in the bore right there, and then mark this. Okay. Then I'm going to push it in the bore until this rotates one time, all the way around when it comes back up on top, just like that. Pull that out. All right. So we're going to take the tape measure here. That is 10 inches. So that is a 1 in 10 twist rate. All right. What we're going to do now is check the head space here. The go gauge we're going to put in here like this. So we got the go gauge in here. We're going to slide this in the barrel, and that should go in it, and it's flush across here. So you got that's in a good spot there. So that part is good. So let's pick up the no-go gauge here. And we're going to do the same thing with that. We're going to put it in here the same way. We're going to put that in here like that. Push it home. And that is proud of the end of the barrel. And as you can see here, also it doesn't seat properly. All right. Okay, what I'm going to do is check the pin protrusion here. And how I'm going to check that is just like this. I'm going to take my calipers here and measure the gauge. This is 0.625, and 5 here is 0.630. I want to make a note of that. The gauge is 0.630. All right. Next, I take the gauge and I put it on here. And I push the pin up like that. Then I lock that in place so the pin's protruding a little bit. Then I put it back in here and take a measurement. .040, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 0.040, which is an acceptable reading for that.